we are getting mixed signal from the crypto market. This is either showing you a right angled broadening wedge, and this one is on Bitcoin. This is just the opposite. So now the question is like, okay, we are getting this one in Ether, which usually suggests that we are going to the upside in most cases, and Bitcoin showing you something different. So what's it actually going to be? Because as we zoom out, the pattern is still there in a short to medium term chart. But when we go on to the long term, longer horizon, now we start to see something different. This right now is so important because the world is changing. We are just observing how weird it is to see Bank of America downgrading Deutsche Bank, and now, before that, Deutsche Bank downgrades Bank of America, right? So we actually have something going on in that end, even though we get the assurance from the central banks saying there is no issue. But this is what is happening right now. If there is no issue, they really don't have to do anything. Now the world is changing, the macro structure is changing for sure. And while looking at all this, some of these are like, legends in the investing field. And when they come out and say like, okay, we went through 6 regional banks, we checked them, and we think they are insolvent. And I'm like, that does not look good. And that can be a possible reason why you're seeing more and more money coming in to the crypto market. Yes, it's not into Bitcoin, it's not into Ether. Right now, it's in a stable coin. But that does mean the attention is moving. They are entering into a different arena from the actual traditional market. And crypto market as a whole is preparing to welcome all of those. This is the entire crypto market cap, and it kind of gives you that idea. Yeah, we are above $1 trillion, great, but we have not yet broken this range yet. Now, you can put a different argument by saying, okay, I think that's just a fake out and this is the actual resistance. But I would say, okay, let's actually look at this in a way that it actually goes all the way back here and agrees with all the previous wicks at the bottom and at the top here. That makes more sense to me. Now, what does that mean for the crypto market as a whole? That means with a breakout, we have more room to go. Now, why do I put the perspective like that? Because here on the Bitcoin side, we literally saw that Bitcoin broke the same pattern to the upside, right? We came there, we slowed down there, and then took off, right? So that is still a possibility for the market here. Now, you can come on into different time frames and look at the pattern structure, what's happening there, right? And we kind of get an idea like, okay, there is a possibility this is forming inverse head and shoulder pattern, which is actually bullish and which is a reversal pattern. So while we were coming to the downside, it gave us that idea. And right now, it kind of shows us like, okay, this at the top was something like, okay, there is a possibility. Now here at the bottom, we are getting the same. But the panic in the market, the confusion in the market is literally blowing the minds of all of us. We are like, okay, what next? We really don't know what's happening, and we are trying to make sense of what may happen. Welcome to the Scientific Investor family, where the normal retail guys learn how to become the next top 10% of the crypto. Now, on the same horizon, we're coming here on the XRP chart. Now, there's a little bit zoomed in view. We are looking at like, really short-term chart. There's an hourly chart, 60-minute. Now, what we're observing here is we had similar corrective channels which had previously broken to the upside. So if we get something like that now, it would be appreciable because the price can actually move back up, give some more momentum. But then we actually jump on to a macro structure, right? We are looking at least last 1 year, trying to understand like, okay, what's happening there? Because on the short term, when we just saw like there is a possible price action happening inside XRP showing you travel in tight ranges, and then you happen to break to the upside. And now on the macro, we are literally observing something similar we're traveling within that range and then bouncing back. So when we actually zoom out, this now becomes like, okay, there is a possible reversal happening, and it's already starting to bounce from the support, breaking through the middle level of resistance. Now you have an upper bound level here, agreed, but we are not at the support, we are breaking to the upside. Now, what does that mean with the amount of volume coming in is that was a true breakout. You actually got to see the level of breakout unless that amount of volume comes in and neutralizes that, right? So that amount is still in the market, and what we are observing is like, okay, we really thought about the possibility where the price action can actually do something like this, or at least couple of candles and then go back up. But right now we are slowing down again at similar level. So that is where the ABC corrective pattern, this talk actually comes in. We see that the RSI is getting close to the resistance, the support here, and that's a rising trend line support. So if we get a bounce from here, that is positive. Why? Look at the RSI, the pattern which we were following here, thinking that the price may do that. RSI has already done that, A, B, C, but the price did not yet follow even though the RSI went lower. So that is where a little bit of confusion can happen for XRP holders right now. We are looking at the market, we're saying like, okay, there is a possibility on a short-term horizon that we may actually continue this run up, right? We have actually done that previously. We did the same movement and then burst to the upside. Are we about to follow something similar and let this be like a weak ABC structure, not a textbook one, but still giving us a thought process like, okay, the bears actually tried to push this one down, but we are making a double bottom at this level. And if that's true, if we get a bounce to test the 0.45, now the chances for getting that double bottom becomes huge. Now, this is not only about that price action, but also about the reversal signal, which is the double bottom pattern itself, right? So we are getting one, which is the double bottom structure. And if we remove that and look for the price structure, we also get to see, we just talked about this. We are getting the trend line like this, a channel, great. And that channel happens to be the second bottom of that double bottom. Now, that is true for here, and that is true for this one too. Just the difference is we put a higher high and then went on to make that bottom, whereas here we did a lower high. Fine. But on the RSI, when we look at this, it's almost the same, right? We didn't do much to the upside. Whereas here, we did blow through and go into that overbought territory. So now that's on an hourly chart. So while looking at the price action, we would say like, okay, we literally want to zoom out to see like how overbought we were. In a 4-hour, we were literally overbought. We're going into a daily chart and saying like, okay, we didn't really go that far. We have a long way to go. Then you go on a 3-day chart saying like, we were literally waiting for this breakout. Now we are breaking to the upside. Why in the world will we go bearish, right? That is the sentiment, at least here on a 3-day chart. When I'm looking at this, for me, the price, the RSI, the structures are actually aligning together at a time when the MACD is entering the positive zone. If you guys have been listening to this channel, you know when the momentum increases in a run up, when the MACD enters the positive zone, not the negative zone. For example, we go back. We actually look at these run ups and see like, okay, we got a burst. As soon as we started entering the positive zone here, we started getting momentum. These 3 candles came after that, right? And now this is 3-day chart. So we are talking about 10 days in that 3 candles, 9 days to be precise. So while we go back up to test like, okay, in the last run up, we're taking the phase from say this level of the first break to the top, making around 285 days. Now we actually we'll take this MACD to the upside and try aligning that a little bit more for clarity. Fine. Now we go here. We look at when we started getting momentum. So we want to actually see when the MACD crossed to the upside. And if we plot that correctly to see where we are, it shows us, the price started getting momentum after that. Then if you look at that, we remained on the positive zone, crossed back to the upside, after which we got the next leg of movement. Then we went below, but as soon as we entered back, we started observing momentum in the market. Remember, these indicators are actually formed based on the price action. So you kind of use this as it suggests indicators, but to break down things in a little bit easier form to understand, right? So now, while we observe like, okay, XRP is showing these patterns and the market is still confusing, it's not that easy to understand. What now, we are not saying we have a crystal ball and this is what we see. What we are trying to do is to make sense of what the market is showing us, right? We got an engulfing candle to the downside, then we got an engulfing candle which engulfed that downside to a bullish side. So it's literally concerning, right? We are like, okay, what is happening? And while we look at that, we also have to put this perspective in, like, say, on a short-term note, when you go on a 4-hour chart, you can see like we have actually done a 3-wave structure, which actually gives us a little bit more confidence to say 1, 2, 3, we have done that. The short term, we have covered that. But when we actually go back, say here, this is more or less like a 12-hour chart. And in 12-hour chart, we kind of look at this and say like, okay, we did wave 1, we did wave 2, the wave 3 was small. Fine. So on a 12-hour, you are now looking for a correction. So the higher time frame structure to that, here is a daily. Now we jump onto the daily and we see like, okay, we got wave 1, we got maybe wave 2 done, but we are pending this one, right? The wave 3 has not yet completed that move. And that is where I'm a little bit concerned. Like, okay, last time we had something like this, a corrective movement in the market, after which the market surprised people and it went up to test 25,000. That kind of movement in the market is going to be the surprising movement, which, we will appreciate, but a lot of people who are going against the market may not appreciate those moves. But that's why we try to stay positive on the price action and to understand like, okay, we had this massive move to the upside, we broke to the upside, coming back down or at least consolidating here would be healthy. Now, waiting for the exact retest in Bitcoin may not be the right thing to do, because we have historically seen that Bitcoin actually forms these kind of resistance. Once it actually breaks through, it literally did not come back to retest that level. Rather, it tested these levels. Now we go back into the last cycle where we actually saw Bitcoin making a level of resistance, breaking through. Then what happened? It did all this run up before it came back down to retest that level. So if that's the case, then we are literally saying like, okay, most likely we may have one more run up before we actually go down for a giant correction. So we may actually go run up, test these levels 33, 34, 35, and then drop. And that drop to 24 can bring panic. Believe me, price of Bitcoin running up to somewhere like 34, 35,000 and then dropping $10,000 in value is going to actually bring some market analyst showing like, okay, yeah, the market is actually dropping, we don't think it's going to go back up. That kind of scenario will come in, and that's when you actually know like, okay, these guys are turning bearish. That's the time for you to go bullish, right? So while we actually understand, okay, there are different patterns, the probability of which can differ from point to point, but what we are trying to look at is like, okay, what's the measured move if this has higher odds? And I'm like, okay, that does show you like about 40,000. To be precise, 44,172. And I'm like, okay, just below that, you get a resistance here, right? And that happens to be a support too. So I would say, okay, not looking at 44, rather 49.50 is a little bit more sensible for me considering that level of support resistance. And then just below that, you have another one, which is 35. Just below that, you have another one, which is 29,700. Now, we came close to that 29,700. Now, our next bounce would be more or less targeting towards $33,000 to $35,000 per Bitcoin. So that's Bitcoin showing you we had this inverse head and shoulder. We broke to the upside, for which the pattern which we already broke, it's a 57% to the upside where the ROI should be. So now this is actually surprising for me too. That comes all the way up to 38,000. So keeping that point, I would say, okay, a retest and bounce towards $35,000 in Bitcoin is not going to be bad. So you have the corrective channel breaking to the upside with the measured move above 40,000. You have an inverse head and shoulder, which is breaking to the upside. So that's in Bitcoin. And then we actually jump on towards the total market. And we are like, okay, the crypto market is showing us something special, because when we are here, we do understand like, okay, RSI is actually showing us something, right? We don't want to neglect the fact that RSI is bullish, and it is giving us a sense of understanding that, okay, we're breaking through a bull flag to the upside. And last time when the RSI was here, the price was close to the all-time highs. That's actually something worth to note. Now on a weekly, yes, the candle has not yet closed, but the way I would highlight this, if I'm, a normal human being like all of us, which I think I am, I would say like, okay, we got a green volume bar, which was way higher than the previous selling. That means a lot of bulls came in. Did the market accept those bulls as bulls or kick them out? That's a key point. The market accepted them as bulls and they pushed the market all the way up, closed it there. Now, why is that so important? Because when you look at the last candle, the volume wasn't red. They tried to push as low as 872 billion in the market cap. But what happened? Buyers came and pushed them back up and closed it there. So even though it was a red selling volume on the daily, they were not able to keep up because buyers were strong or the sellers were getting exhausted. Same note here. You have a lot of selling volume here, but the candle does not show you anyway close to the movement which you got here. The volume here is like 80 to 85% of what happened here in the last week, and right now we are standing here. Most likely, what we want to see the next candle is like, okay, it is showing you another consolidative candle or a bullish candle which goes through to the upside. But what we really, really don't want to see is something like this. Now, it's not that heavily bearish structure, but it may show you another bull flag consolidating here, maybe 2-3 weeks more. That would test a lot of people's patience. Even though we are still going to the upside, adding another 2 to 3 weeks may actually put a lot of people in danger, right? Because the market has been showing you the bullish signals, a lot of people are going leverage, a lot of people are taking huge bets. Some of them are heavily risky, right? And while we look at that, we need to take a step back and say like, okay, I do see that the market is bursting through. So being on the conservative side, we will say like, okay, 21-day moving average has been broken to the upside. So that's like a little bit aggressive if you can accept that. Then you put it on 50-day moving average and say, okay, we even broke that one. At first, we tested that resistance, slowed down, but the bulls came back and pushed the price through. That's a great thing. Now, what is the next key level? If it's me, I would look for 100-day moving average and actually say like, okay, that means we have some room to go back up to test this range of $1.5 trillion. That close to a 50% run up in the market, the entire crypto market. And some of these coins at that time can actually do crazy rally, because we have seen this, right? A lot of people will literally sell you a ton of bearish ideas, even though Bitcoin right now is at $27,000. That is hard because, while we were here, people were selling you bearish signal. Okay, agreed. There was a lot of panic. But then something changed. You put in a higher high, higher lower, higher high. And then that's like 1, 2, 3 structure. You correct back down. Now, that's actually common. Say, we go to commodities. Say, if you want to take silver, we'll go take okay, that should be here. It's the easiest way to come in. Now we actually jump in on here and we will actually look at this and say like, okay, fine. We actually are looking at a different market structure where this is like, nothing related to crypto. But we again happen to see similar price structure here too. We have these run-ups where we show you like, okay, it is actually doing a 1, 2, 3 leg to the upside. Where if you actually follow the path, you can actually see it doing 1, 2, 3, boom. Right? And then what happens? You correct back down. You consolidate there for a long time. Now, is that actually a common pattern? You can literally go in. You want to actually see anything which is happening before that. Right? Sometimes the pattern is not that clear. Sometimes the price action is clear. So the way you clarify that is when you have a doubt of what's happening in the market, you may literally have to actually go on and say like, okay, I don't really understand what's happening, but I want to get a clear idea of what's happening. And then you zoom in to see whether you get another microstructure within that. Because at least for me, that's what I usually do. Say if I have a doubt whether that's a microwave or a nano wave, this gets confusing. But you can see like wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, that's completed. You drop back, test this one, and then go on for the next leg in which you get the 1, 2, 3, right? So inside the each structure, you actually literally get those 1, 2, 3 correction, right? You get wave 1, wave 2, wave 3. So the market actually gives you that idea that it is doing this stuff. Every asset. Wave 1, wave 2, wave 3. So in silver, what we're observing right now is that wave 3 happens to be the biggest wave, which is not the textbook pattern, but at least that's what the price action is showing us. Now, jumping back into crypto, that is what we are talking about, right? If that shows us that this leg up is the next wave starting, then we accept a corrective move to the downside and then the next leg up. So it can take a month or two, but that is coming ahead. And if it's me, I would say, okay, that means I may need more patience. Agreed, 100%. But I would really like to know what these assets are doing, because some of them are still below a macro resistance and they have been there for a very long time. Say EOS, if we actually go look at EOS, remember the scenario back in the days when EOS was breaking through this level, we took the hit, we had the investment there, we took the hit, the loss, we moved out and we entered into quant at that time. It was like $40, $45. It went up to like 120, 150 somewhere there and we took the profit. Yes, it ran up to 220 or something, but we took early considering that we recovered all the loss. And the argument which I put in back then was like, okay, this is the bear market level, right? We broke that level. So I think that's going to be a hard resistance. And right now we understand the fact that we broke lower, we retested that level and got rejected. But things are changing. I agree. But now that we are making a double bottom, we may come back up to retest this level, which would be, long-term good signal of something is happening. There is a possible reversal coming and all. But that was like a year ago when I was saying like, okay, this is breaking through to the downside. That may not be the right asset to be in, right? And that is the type of ideas we look in the market, look at all these different assets and try to share the outlook, what the next 3 to 6 months can be, what next 2 to 3 months most likely look like. Now, there will be variations, there will be a lot of difference, but if you are looking for things like that on a regular basis so that you stay updated and take well-educated decision before you actually take in just a guess, right? This is a guess, but taking a well-educated guess is where you stand out from the market. And if you are looking for that, look at the Patreon. The link is given in the description below. So guys, if you received value for your time, please do hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't done that already. I'll meet you guys on the next video. Bye for now.